The year's about halfway done, and many people have asked me the question, should I start a business in 2025? As somebody who's worked with dozens of startups and started multiple businesses himself, this is my experience and my answer. You might be asking yourself, will I see a return on my investment? Or what business should I start? You might have concerns such as, obviously you have bills to pay, a family to support, a mortgage. My answer usually to people, if they ask me, should I start a business in 2025, is yes. Obviously, that's not a blanket statement. Some people aren't cut out for entrepreneurship. But if they have that desire, if they're asking that question seriously, then most likely the answer is yes. The better question is not necessarily should you start a business, but it's what business to start. Let me share from my own experience. Around 2014, I had just returned from living abroad in England and Wales, and I decided to start my own clothing brand. The name was Sir Wild. It was European-inspired clothing and accessories handmade in America. I had some successes, not really having any idea of what I was doing. I funded a Kickstarter campaign for around $15,000, I think, to $20,000. I established my first round of manufacturing in America. I was making them in Long Island and Brooklyn. Mainly accessories like neckties, bow ties, pocket squares, those kind of things. I'd always heard accessories are good because they're niches and then also you don't need sizing, etc. I actually raised, kind of by fluke, $25,000 from a private investor. I wasn't seeking investment, but he heard my story and offered to invest, and he was a great guy and it made sense. And then I operated the business for a couple of years, learning a ton along the process. I had some wins. The NFL Network picked up my neckties. Nate Burleson, Steve Young, some of the guys on the network were wearing my product. That was awesome. I got a small feature in GQ magazine. I got on other news networks. But ultimately, largely due to a lack of knowledge and poor operational decisions, the business wasn't incredibly profitable. So for after a couple years, and also I wanted to serve in the Marine Corps. That's a whole nother story. But I decided to sell the business for minimal amount, kind of cover my losses, learn from the experience and move on. One thing that I learned from that experience was that even though the business had some successes, and without a doubt, it could have been more successful than it was if I knew exactly what I was doing. One key lesson I learned was that maybe it wasn't the right business. Neckties and bow ties and pocket squares, sure, they have some existence in the wedding market, but they're really gone from the business scene. Also, being handmade in America meant that they were more expensive products. Are people wanting to spend $68 on a necktie? Maybe some, but a very niche amount of people. I think that there are showstopper products in the product e-commerce world that can do really well. I'm not convinced neckties is one of those. And that goes to my point. My question earlier on in this video is, should you start a business? Yes. Maybe what business should you start though? So here are some key questions that I would ask if I was thinking about starting a business. And there's a book that talks about the lean startup method. It talks about doing work and effort before you actually invest 2 years of your life and money into this business. I would ask, what competitors are there? I would research online competitors. I would ask myself, is this an original idea? Who's doing this? Who's doing it well? What are they charging? Are they successful? Why? If the most successful single boutique-owned necktie company is doing $1.5 million a year, is that what I want? Do I want to capture that market? What are my goals here? I would ask potential customers if it's valuable. Back to the necktie business, I probably would have contacted some wedding planners. I would have contacted some small necktie like stores. I would have contacted maybe some like connoisseurs in the space and been like, what do you like about neckties? What do you wish you had more of? Is that a product you'd spend X on? Where do you see that industry going in the future? 3, I'd research my unique angle or offering. I had a unique angle, European-inspired, handmade in America. We used really unique floral fabric before anyone was really doing floral. But really the question would be, is that a big enough difference? When I initially was going to start the business, I was going to do neckties that match socks. I had a hard time setting up the sock manufacturing, so that didn't work out. But that might have been a more unique angle that might have paid off in the end. I know they teach you this in business school, but I do think it's smart to write down different things, research, just chat to GPT, a basic business plan, answer some of those key components and questions. Maybe I'd even start sampling products. I mean, you could take it to the next level. If it is a product business, you could sample the neckties. You could get feedback on the neckties before your first run. A Kickstarter is a great way to get feedback. I mean, I learned that at least there was $15,000 worth of demand at the time. If it's an app, you could get feedback from people. You could roll out a demo for free. If it's a video game, you could roll out a demo or a beta. So not a terrible idea. Lastly, I already mentioned this, but I'd maybe talk to some veterans in the industry, maybe in an adjacent industry, because people might not like to obviously give you their secrets if you're going to be a key competitor. But for example, if I was going to start a welding business, I might talk to other people in that sort of space, like adjacent to that, and ask, hey, what sort of welders do you work with? You know, are they busy? What do they charge? Those kind of things. Really, the essence of this entire video is that yes, I believe you should start a business, but you should be intentional and thoughtful with what business you start and your approach to a business, because one, certain business ideas are first base hits, certain business ideas are home runs. You might not necessarily need that home run. That first or second base hit might be a $3, $4, $5 million a year business, but it's good to know what you're getting into before you dedicate your life, before you leverage your savings, before you put things on the line to start it. I think it's smart to do that due diligence. Let me share really my most recent experience. So I got out of the military, I traveled for a while, and then I took a job at the Surfer's Journal. It's a surfing magazine. I'd say it's likely, in my opinion, the best surfing magazine and one of the best publications in the world. In Southern California, I was getting paid a base salary of $80,000 a year, which was definitely, it was a pay cut for me because I had just gotten promoted to captain in the Marine Corps, and also I was living in Southern California, which was very expensive. Rent is $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month, everything's expensive. You're not really saving much money on $80,000 a year. Maybe somewhere in the Midwest that might be decent money, but in California it's tight. I understand why they paid me that, I'm not complaining, and also I took the job. I took the job for the experience, I took the job because I really admired the publication, because there were some talented people there. But after about a year, I started to realize, okay, where do I go from here? I didn't maybe ask myself the questions before taking the job. I just wanted to jump into something after the military. And so, you know, where do I go from here? Okay, I work here for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Maybe I get to 6 figures, maybe a little bit more. It's a cool job, but I'm not really that much in control of my destiny. I'm not really that in control of my day-to-day life. I'm doing a lot of things that I don't want to do, which, believe me, that exists in entrepreneurship as well, but you have a little bit more control. After about a year, I started thinking about an exit plan, and I thought, okay, so I started this company in college. I've, taken photos throughout my whole time in the military. I've worked with tons of different brands on a lot of different areas. I worked with this company, again, back in college, Rustico Leather, which was like a $4 to $5 million leather company. I worked with Wrangler Jeans. I did a few photo shoots for them on the creative side. I had worked at a small agency. I worked with Album Surfboards, this really art-focused, design-centered surfboard brand. I worked at the Surfer's Journal. By now, I had shot with other brands as well. I had been shooting with, I went to the Galapagos and I shot with the cruise line. There's like a lot of, I'm missing some, but there's a lot of different brands I started to work with. And I started to realize, okay, I'm really good at this. When it comes to brand storytelling, brand strategy, marketing strategy in general, photography, video, I'm really good at that. I'm somewhat of a jack of all trades in that niche, but I'm better than most. I understand copywriting, storytelling, authenticity. And I thought, why can't I do this for myself? And I said, I'm not sure how it will end up, and it's scary, but now's the time to go for it. So I got the Surfer's Journal to turn into one of my clients. I had signed another client, Fire Science Nutrition, on a monthly retainer. And then I was doing some shoots as well. And I just hit it hard. LinkedIn, Instagram, reaching out to people, building the business. And now that it's been about a year, my business is doing $15,000 to $20,000 a year, and I think we're on track to probably doing $25,000 or a year, $15,000 to $20,000 a month. We're on track to be doing 25 if we sign a few clients pretty soon, and then the next target would be 50 a month. And I'm not taking all that money home. I have a few people helping me out now. I have an editor, I have a few social media managers, a few other things. But am I making a little more than I was at the Surfer's Journal? Yes. And is it more rewarding? Yes, it is. I've learned a ton. I'm learning a ton. I just signed a client, Modern Huntsman, incredibly talented team. That's kind of like one of my core clients that I personally work on the most. I'm learning a whole lot from them. And I have the flexibility to go shoot when I'd like. On Friday, I went up to a ranch up by Park City, Utah, and I shot with them. Has it been rewarding? Yes. Full disclosure, I don't want everyone who watches this to say, okay, I'm gonna go start a creative agency like Ben did, because that might not be your thing. You need to decide what is your thing. The whole point of the video, what business are you gonna start? Maybe you have a really great eye for jewelry. You have a great design eye. Maybe that's your passion. Maybe you have an idea for a new camping product that you want to soft launch or launch on Kickstarter and see how that goes. I think that it's just, yes, do a business. You know, I was talking yesterday, really the way to make it big in life is either take one of the few jobs where you can make insane money, like a doctor. Maybe you want to be an anesthesiologist. Maybe a lawyer, they probably can make really good money. Maybe if you climb the corporate ladder and you're CMO or CEO, but otherwise, it's owning your own business. I mean, there's landscape businesses out there who are doing $5 million a year. There's welders making great money. I think that starting your own business is a great way to success, but it's freaking hard. You just got to be willing to grind and stick with it. And if you're willing to come in on a Sunday morning like this and shoot something, or on a Saturday, I came into the office yesterday on a Saturday too, then you can be successful. I myself, this is the last thing I'll say, I am itching to start an e-commerce brand here soon. Something that me making money isn't tied to my time. I would love to at least own part of something that I'm selling online where I can put all the skills that I have to use, such as ads and content and social media marketing. So that's something to keep in mind as well with what business should you start. If it's a service business, it's tied to your time unless you're able to scale and hire people to work for you. Like if you have a landscape business, then you could hire people under you to do that work. And even though you still work a lot, you're not the one laying all the sod and everything. So I'm just gonna wrap it up here. I hope this was useful to you. I would say if you're considering starting a business in 2025, yes, do so. I think that there is no better time than today to start a business because time goes so fast and it takes time to grow a good business. So any day you wait is a day lost. Also, I'd say there's no better time to start a business than when you have a job. Start a business now. Ask these questions of what business you should start it on the side, and if one day it starts to take over your income or it starts to show serious promise, then drop your current, jump on the business. And that's what I did. I started doing this on the side when I was at the Surfer's Journal, and then they became one of my clients and I went all in. So thanks y'all, I appreciate it. I'd love to hear the businesses that you're gonna start in the comments, or you can email me. I'm happy to lend an ear whenever anyone hits me up, and if this is valuable, please subscribe. Cheers y'all.